The most widely published book in human history reveals that we are created in the image of God. Throughout our human journey, each encounter is an opportunity to see the shared humanity in ourselves and others. Regardless of one's views on religion, each experience and each story weaves us together towards a common path. A path of transformation, a process of growth and understanding, a recognition that, at our core, we share a common destiny. What does the search for truth really mean in our lives? How can we find a sense of unity in a world so diverse and divided? As we reflect on these questions, we start to uncover a fundamental connection that binds us all beyond our differences. Welcome to Created in the Image of God, Building Vibrant Communities, with our host, Wade Franson. Today's episode is Leaving Babylon.
Hey everyone, it's Wade Franson, and it is Created in the Image of God. I'm going to say good morning, wake up, grab your coffee, everyone. For me, we're pre-recording this, so it's a little bit later in the day, which is why I'm so wide awake and perky, even though for you it's 7 a.m. Central Time. I have a guest in the studio who has a fascinating story to tell, and we were just chatting a little bit about it so I could get my bearings again after having been working on this show here for a month or two. And his name is Jonathan England, and he's described as a visionary teacher, messenger, and a founder of Earthwaking Village, whose intent is to help people break free from Babylon's systems and build vibrant communities based on divine law. And he's written about some of these principles in a book called Before I Hope I Wake.
If I die before I
wake. If I die before I wake. Sorry, maybe too much coffee going on here. Anyway, welcome to the studio, Jonathan.
Thank you for having me, Wade. Appreciate you bringing me on here.
It's always that I kind of don't want to be looking over here and reading. I'm trying to remember it, but I don't always remember all the details.
I get it.
Speaking of details and memory, let's go back. Let's jump in the Wayback Machine and find out about your creation story, your genesis. Who were your parents? Where were you born? What were the circumstances and forces that shaped your life before you took conscious thought? We always like to do that to get to know the real you.
Yeah. So, hindsight 2020, being able to see, I didn't see me being shaped from inside, but looking back, I can see clearly how it all got shaped. But so I had an older brother who had muscular dystrophy, which runs through the mother's genes. And so when he was born, my mom blamed herself a lot for that. And she had one of these distinctions I have is like the hero, the victim, and the villain. And so how they kind of operate with each other, but they're like codependent attachment mechanisms that people are using to get significance and attention because they don't know what love is. And they're trying to get love rather than knowing that they are it. So mom had a strong victim, which also operated as a hero to her son. My brother had muscular dystrophy, but I got trained up to be the hero, the superhero for our family, for my mom, to be there to save my mom from her emotions, to be there to save my brother from his physical ailments. And so when I was born to my mom, I was normal, but to her, it was like, it fixed what she had blamed herself for messing up, having a normal son who can have a normal life. But so your brother who has muscular dystrophy is older than your brother. Yeah, 4 years older.
Yeah.
And so of that journey, like having an egoic construct of being this hero, where one of the things about the hero is my feelings don't matter. And so everyone else's feelings matter. So it was like, I grew up like as an adult, basically my parents got divorced at 5. And so I was basically my mom's husband in a way, that's kind of how that rose up into that role.
Well, and important here for me to get my head around this. So help me understand what muscular dystrophy is like for a baby and a young child, because I don't understand how the progression of the disease works.
Yeah, you don't notice it as a baby. It's as they start to get older, the first thing is he starts walking in his tippy toes. That's the first sign, but it's just the muscles to start to deteriorate. Like his leg muscles got really big, but they're like atrophy. They just deteriorate. And so the older he got, the less he could use his muscles. And so by the time, I was 12, he was 16, he couldn't feed him, so I was feeding him. And so, but he was stuck in a wheelchair from probably 8 on. He probably never got out of a wheelchair again, something like that. So that was a journey. But they all, people with muscular dystrophy, they die at a young age. So one of the things that I'd been preparing for my whole life was my brother's death. So one of my first memories was waking up and be like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't want to die. I'm like 3 years old, freaking out, thinking I don't want to die, and having this, awareness that I'm going to die. But that was because like it was in my household. Like everybody was trying to prepare for my brother dying. And, that's the worst thing that can happen for a parent, is their child. They outlive their child. And so I had that awareness of him going to be dying, and it was painted as this. That's the worst thing that could ever happen, is for someone to die. But the thing is, everybody dies. That's what they do. But I would say it's not what happened that upsets you; it's that you thought it wasn't supposed to happen. That's the meaning that you assign to the moment is what really messes with you. And so, when I was 12 years old and my brother was 16, he passed away. And again, being the highly trained hero, my mom sent me in the room that night and gave me orders. I'm saying it in a specific way just to kind of paint the picture, but like, she's a very sweet woman. It's like, but the orders were, and not in an ordering way, just like, hey, your brother is suffering and he's only holding on for us. And so can you go in there and tell him it's okay to die, because that maybe it'll be easier for him to let go and move on. And so I went into his room. We knew that was the night that he was going to die. And we got several movies, because him and I, we'd watch movies together, just watch movies and video games, pretty much all we could do. But we watched 3 movies. The final one being A Nightmare Before Christmas, which this was actually December 27th. So it was Christmas time. So a very fitting title, The Nightmare Before Christmas, or The Nightmare After Christmas. But we watched that final movie, and we stayed up as late as we could, because we both knew that he wasn't going to wake back up. And after the movie was over, I looked at him and I did what I was supposed to do. I said, Matthew, it's okay to die. And, I held his hand, and not too long after that, I felt him. Well, he said something to me, which I didn't understand at that moment. His final words to me didn't make any sense to me back then, but I said, it's okay to die. And we're holding hands. And his final words was, John, I'm not dying. I'm waking up. He said that. And even when he was like 3 years old, he had told Mom, I'm not going to be here for very long. I'm just here for a purpose. At 3, he knew that. And so he never had, like, I was his hero in my perspective, because that's the construct that my mom had built out. But he was actually fine. He was always happy. He was always okay, even though he couldn't walk, even though he couldn't feed himself. But he did want to be able to play and run. And so when he said, I'm not dying, I'm waking up, he said, soon I'm going to be home with God. I'm going to be not stuck in this body, and I'm going to be playing like a little kid. And so it's not a big deal. So he knew it was okay for him to die. I lied when I said it. And what it had to do, it made me disconnect from my emotions, because being the hero, I've got to say this so he can be okay. My feelings don't matter. My family's do. So I said the thing, but it detached me. And I didn't cry for my brother dying. I'm holding his hand. I didn't cry at all. And it was 20 something years later before I finally cried about it. I didn't cry about anything after that. But in that moment is what flipped me. And because now I'm like, well, who am I? Because basically I was there as my brother's hero, and I was supposed to save my family, like inside of my subconscious. And if I can just save my brother, I can save my family. If I can save my family, I can save love. And so now it's broken. There's no way to do it. My brother's dead. My family's broken. There's no way to fix it. Love is gone. And I made a few decisions in that moment, subconsciously, not aware of it. But one is that, I don't matter. 2 is that there is no God, because if there is a God, there's either something wrong with him or something wrong with us, our family. And so I'm not okay with either of that, because I'm doing my best to be a good kid, to be as good as I possibly can be. And then the other thing is I'd failed love. There's no hope. So for some reason, I can't hear you. I don't.
Yeah, you were 11 when your brother died.
I was 12,
12,
and he was
okay.
16.
Yeah, so that's a pivotal year, pivotal time. Pre-adolescence awareness. I'm just really moved by this story. I'm really drinking it in. I can relate, and it all resonates as deeply truthful based on my own experience. Some of mine, the kidnapping, separated from both parents, the horror of everything, being in an orphanage, all that stuff. And so, frankly, so many of the people that I've been interviewing in this show, they have these tragedies, and it helps me really understand this verse, which I continue to chew on, that Jesus learned obedience through the things that he suffered. And, theologically, Christian theology around the Trinity and who Jesus supposedly was, it doesn't compute that Jesus would need to learn anything if he's God, right? But it says he learned obedience through the things that he suffered. And our life's experiences are deeply transformative. The whole purpose of this life physically is to give us the space to grow and change in a way that when we pass on into the next life, it's my personal belief, there will be less change. There will be greater joy and peace and love, but there will be less change and transformation. So this really is a womb of sorts in which we are growing and developing spiritual qualities for the next world, for the next plane of existence, at which time things will be a little more fixed in terms of our growth and development. This is kind of vague, fuzzy thinking, but I don't know, how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, as you were saying that, it just some things popped up. The first thing that popped up when you're saying he learned obedience, the first thing that popped up was this phrase, I say, faith untested can't be trusted, meaning if you know how to do it, it doesn't take faith, because faith is like believing it before you see it. It's saying yes to something you don't know how to do. And so there is no space for faith if you're everything you're doing, you already know how to do. So it's, stepping into that abyss in a way. So the learning of obedience, the only way obedience is possible is if there's something that you don't want to do that you're being asked to do and you obey. And so that's Jesus, not God. Is there any other way? He's asking 3 times, sweat and blood, because it's so bad that he doesn't want to do this, which the specific thing is the sin, the perceived separation from the Father. And he said, and he obeyed. But so being the Son, like, one of the ways that I kind of distinguish, I don't know how you see it, but in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and walked among us. So I'm looking at Jesus as the Word. So if he is God's Word, then he just walks as God talks. And so there could not be, how could he possibly obey, because he just is God's Word. So there is no room for obedience, because it's just, that's what I am. I just do as he says. But the obedience came online when there was actually taking on our sin, the perceived separation from God. And then but that's what the Father said to do is, hey, take on the sin, separate yourself from me, and take on all their sin. He's like, well, it's so it created this paradox, and then he obeyed.
Well, that's fascinating. I get what you're saying. I would add to that. I had this, what I thought was an original thought a few months ago, that, I wonder if Jesus, when he was praying, nevertheless, Father, if it be your will, or rather, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, if it be your will. And then on the cross, when he died and he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's because he held out possibly some little hope that Abraham and Isaac and the ram, that he was Isaac and not the ram.
Come on.
Right? That God had some other
Yeah.
miraculous last minute. And I thought this was an original idea. And then I watched this show, The Chosen. I was watching it with my wife, but when it came to that time, they portrayed him actually in the Garden of Gethsemane, actually having that thought that, perhaps, and I can't remember if they did it with imagery or whatever, with Isaac being rescued. But the point is, there was that uncertainty, right, where he was tested and maybe didn't know 100%. And I love the fact that you brought up this thing about the Word, because the other thing that I've thought a lot about is that in the first creation story in Genesis 1, God spoke and it was done. But in the second creation story, Genesis 2, verse 4 pivots. It says, and thus God created the heavens and earth. And then it says, and in the day he created the earth and the heavens. So it pivots from a cosmic centric view of creating the heavens and the earth to a geocentric human view of earth and heavens. And now you find that same being not speaking words, but bowing down and with his own hands forming us from the dust. And then mouth to mouth resuscitation, breathing into us the breath of life. This is very different from the first creation story as to how he created us, hands-on, lovingly, with direct interaction and care. And to me, that's fascinating. And you're introducing this idea that the word just is the word and God spoke and it was done, to this, well, no, we got to now get into the dirt. We got to get down in the mud together, and I'm going to get my hands and my lips dirty.
Yeah, the word becoming flesh. And so what is it? Earth gives heaven meaning, or no, heaven gives earth meaning, earth gives heaven expression. And so it's on earth as it is in heaven. We are here establishing the heavenly kingdom. So God in the beginning, so that's time. God created the heavens and the earth. That's space and matter. So time, space, and matter, but brought eternity into time, space, and matter. And so that whole thing, it's like, so we can actually touch each other. There can be because there's only God. It's God is omnipresent. It's not that there's only one God. It's there is only God. And as the Bible says, in him we live and move and have our being. So there's no spot that God is not. And so how can we have an experience of giving and receiving if there's only the one? And so this creates, it's like an illusion of separation that creates the opportunity for chosen connection, and they're in our different souls. Like I talk about how like there's a light that goes into a prism and it comes out as a rainbow, and there's infinite colors in the rainbow, but there's only one light. And so God being the light, and then our souls being the colors of the rainbow. So it's still just one light, but there's now all these different colors. And so that's kind of how our souls get to express. And that's the time and the space and the matter that gives that opportunity for that to giving and receiving, because that love is the infinite connection, but it's the giving and the receiving of it to where we get to experience it, love and form. So yeah, it's pretty,
So then let's wrap up this segment by saying, okay, so these were all the deep, profound changes in you, but then it led to a phase of you kind of denying God, not recognizing God. So what happened? When's the coming of age then in this story?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a crazy journey, but so at 12, that's when I really disconnected from my own self, but also, of course, disconnected from God in that. And in that journey, it grew the identity where the fruits of that, I became a broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist beach bum. And I was an evangelist atheist. It was my job to convince people God didn't exist. I was a mind worshiper, and so that's what I did for like 20 years until one night I was blackout drunk, driving my car, not realizing I was driving until I rear-ended a car at a stoplight and came to. And I'm like, what just happened? I tried to run. Cop was sitting at the stoplight, chased me down, took me to jail like a mile down the road, caught me, took me to jail. In that moment, I made a decision. I realized that because the previous decision was I didn't matter. And so here I am sitting in jail with a voice saying, you could have killed someone. And it kept yelling at me over and over. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But then I could hear a little bit deeper, and it was saying that one of your actions could hurt someone, John. I'm like, yeah. So what could another one of your actions do? Well, help someone. So if your action can hurt people or help people, what does that mean about your actions? Well, it means they actually matter. They physically matter. And if your actions matter, John, what does that mean about your decisions? Oh, my decisions actually matter. If your decisions matter, what does that mean about you, John? Oh, I matter. And I am mattering. And so that was the I am identity came online. I am mattering. And from there, and my decisions matter. So then I made a decision in that moment that from this moment forward, the world is going to be a better place because I existed, not a worse one. And I didn't know how that was going to happen because I'm sitting in jail, but it's like I saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Like where it was only darkness, now there's a light. And I just started moving in that direction. I wound up saying, okay, well, I can't even take care of myself. Well, I need to figure out how to make some money. And I was flipping channels one night and I saw an infomercial came on TV, and it was a guy teaching no money, no credit real estate investing. I'm like, well, I qualify. I don't have any money or credit. I signed up for his program. And then within 18 months, I'd made $400,000. Starting with no money, no credit, no clue. I'd made $400,000 within 2 years. I built a multi-million-dollar real estate empire. And, because I'm an all-in guy, whatever I do, I go all the way. And so now instead of making all this money, I'm building the family, but everybody's getting more and more miserable. I'm like, well, I thought this was the solution. I thought this was the answer. We're on vacation all the time. We got everything that everybody could ever want. Why is everyone freaking miserable? And so then I'm like, well, this isn't working. So my pendulum swung all the other way, and I went full on spiritual. And I'm like, all right, I got to find out what is. And because I had a highly trained BS spotter. I could find lies and manipulations everywhere. I'm like, wrong, you're lying, but I'd never thought about, hey, actually, look, let's find what is right. And so at that point, I started going to church 5 times every Sunday, twice every Wednesday, in multiple different churches and religions. And it started to come, I'm looking for what's right. And it started to like pop out. I'm like, oh, that's true.
I see the all-in aspect. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, which I believe is a video about you. And when we come back, I want to pick up right there just to keep the segments in line here and not get too far out ahead of ourselves. This is fascinating. I'm loving it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Jonathan England.
What if someone handed you $10 million, but told you you'd only have 24 hours left to live? Would you take the money? Most people wouldn't. Because what you truly want isn't money. It's time, it's peace, it's purpose. And yet, so many believers are trading their lives chasing money in a system that was never built to bless them. They tithe, they give, they work hard, but provision still feels fragile. Why? Because provision doesn't respond to effort, it responds to order. Join us for the Miracle Money Masterclass, a free live experience where you'll discover the 7 shifts believers make to unlock supernatural provision. This isn't about hustle, manifestation, or spiritualized ambition. It's about alignment. It's about consecration. It's about becoming someone God can trust with overflow without it costing your soul. If you're done with striving, if you're ready to exit Babylon's system, and if you know it's time to restore divine order in your finances and your future, click the link and register now for the Miracle Money Masterclass. This isn't just a class, it's a reordering.
Welcome back, and sorry for the abrupt ending of the previous segment. We were just getting past the point of no return. But right before that break, Jonathan was explaining how now he was all in as a seeker, finding truth in a variety of churches 5 times on a Sunday and so on. Tell us a little bit more about that phase as we lead into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I just all in looking to try to find what is the truth. Because I know what it isn't now, but what is it? And it just started coming online. And but then there's a moment where you ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door will be open. And I'm a knocker. Again, I'm all in. So God knows I'm an all in person. So there was a time after I'm open to God, but I need to know something tangible. And I was in a church parking lot, and I saw one of my old friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I used to be in a punk rock band called Lost in the Sauce. We earned that name. I was getting blacked out drunk every night. He was in a reggae band called Modern Motion, and we used to play together a lot. Well, this is the first time I'd seen him in years. Turned out, since I'd met him before, birds of a feather flock together. I used to be a broke, ignorant, blackout, drunk, atheist beach bum, so he was too. And we hadn't seen each other in a long time. And now here we are in this church parking lot. Turned out, as I'd built this big real estate empire and built the largest real estate investment club in our city, and then realized that didn't work. And so I went down the spiritual path. He built the largest taxi cab company in our city. And then, realized that wasn't what made him happy. And then he went down the spiritual path too. And here we are. And he says, hey, do you still play music? I'm like, not really. He's like, well, I got a storage shed where I paint my taxi cabs, and come over and we'll play some music, because I got there was a studio in there. And so I said, okay, we're playing music. I'm playing on the drums and he's playing on the guitar. And then we'd be there for a couple hours. And then we stopped for a moment, and there's a guy standing in the storage shed, this big redneck with curly hair, and he just starts clapping his hands like, oh man, that was awesome. I've been here for 20 minutes. Y'all didn't even see me. I'm like, wow, okay. And so my friend's like, I gotta go. And so we lock up the storage shed, but he leaves me there with that guy, and I'm there about 5 minutes with this guy. And I could tell something's different about this dude. Turns out he lives in a storage shed, one of the storage sheds right next to there. And I wound up giving him my business card. And the next day was my birthday, January 22nd, 2015. And I was in a meditation group, and I come out of the meditation, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I don't recognize the number, and I don't ever answer if I don't recognize it. I'll just let them leave a voicemail or something. But I heard a voice say, answer the call. I'm like, what? Answer the call. I'm like, all right. So I answered it. It's the dude from the storage shed, the redneck guy that lives in a storage shed, calls me, and he's like, oh God, something's come over me. I got to meet with you right now because God's got a message for you. I'm like, dude, if God's got a message for me, he can come to me. He don't need to talk to some homeless dude. But I'm all in guy. So of course I'm like, I got to find out. I'm like, where are you at? He says, I'm at Walmart parking lot. The same Walmart parking lot that I got pulled over got taken to jail when I was drunk driving. And I'm like, here we are again. And so I said, all right, I'll meet you there. It was 5 minutes away. I'm in Florida. My dad lives in Kentucky. I call my dad on the phone. I'm like, hey, I'm about to go meet some strange homeless guy that says he's got a message from God for me. And if you never hear from me again, check the cameras at the Walmart parking lot, because that's the last place I was. And I was serious. I'm like, there's at least a 50% chance this dude's going to be wearing my skin later. But I'm all in. I'm willing to die, but I'm going to find out. And so I go there, I pull up, and the guy had a little yellow truck with his door open. He says, get in. Like, okay. All right. So I got in, and he said, shut the door. I'm like, okay. He starts up the truck, puts it in gear, starts rocking back and forth, and starts speaking in tongues. I'd never been around that yet. He's like, oh, and I'm like, I didn't know anything about this stuff just yet. And he starts driving, and he starts saying, as he's rocking back and forth, and he's like, God really loves you. God really loves you. I'm like, well, I hope so. This not looking good. And so what I did, I sat there perfectly still. You want to talk about present? I was in the moment. I'm like, and I'm waiting, and he's just driving me down the highway like 65 miles an hour. I have no idea where we're going. I don't think he knows where we're going. And we wound up not going anywhere, just driving down the road for 45 minutes. And I'm sitting there just waiting for it, because I had a highly trained BS spot. I'm just waiting for him to say one thing, like, ha, gotcha. But I'm sitting there like, well, that's true. That's true. That's true. How's he know that? How's he know that? He starts talking about my childhood. He starts talking about my parents. He's talking about my grandparents. Like, what the heck is going on? And then there's no way he could possibly have known this stuff. And then he starts telling me about my future. And he says, in 3 days, God's going to come to you, and he's going to ask for your life. And if you give it to him, you can never take credit for anything ever again. And I'm like, okay. And so as soon as he drops me off, I get out of the car. I call up one of my friends who was like this Opie Taylor guy that was like, did a Bible.
What's Opie Taylor? I don't know what Opie Taylor is.
It was an old TV show. This is really clean cut, very, just very wholesome, clean cut. And he had a Bible study every Wednesday.
Does REM reference him in that song "Man in the Moon"?
Maybe I don't know.
Opie. Anyway, because I remember hearing the term Opie and thinking it was something. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, just clean cut dude. Anyway, so this guy's like that, and I'm calling him up because he's got a Bible study, and I'm like, all right, hey man, what do you know about the people speaking in tongues? He's like, yeah, that's all in the Bible. I'm like, that's cool. He's like, yeah, that's cool. What about prophecies? He's like, yeah, that's in the Bible, but it says a false prophet should be put to death. And he says, and the guy told you the timeline. He said in 3 days. I'm like, yeah. He said, well, this is easy. 3 days, you're either going to know to get as far away as you get from that guy, or it's real deal. And so 3 days later, January 25th, 2015, I had this experience where I'm just sitting in my room, and all of a sudden my body starts vibrating, and it feels like I'm just turning into energy, like a ball of light or something. My whole room turns into light. It's like this golden glitter light. My whole room is it, and I'm it. And then I hear a voice without words that's kind of coming over from the left side of me. And it's a voice without words, but I know what it's saying. It's saying, I'm here. I'm God. I'm here for your life. And I'm like, oh crap. And even though I don't have a body anymore, I'm terrified. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do with it? And I get no answer. So I've got to decide, am I going to do this, even not knowing what I'm saying yes to? And again, I told you before, like my mind was my God, and I used to play chess with life. If I do this, then that could happen, then I could do that, and that could happen, and I could do that, and that could. So I'd be playing it all out, stuck in the future because I'm terrified of all the things that happened in the past. So I'm split. But now I'm present. You know, like I said in the car, I was present because, and so here I am in this moment. But I'm like, well, okay, he's not answering me, so I'm gonna. It's not an informed decision. Then it's a different kind of decision. It's going to be an inspired decision. And I'm like, well, what's the worst case scenario? And I started thinking through it. And then I was like, well, if this is God, I'm going to die anyway. I mean, one of my first memories is just freaking out because I'm going to die one day. And when I'm dead, like this body's going to be gone. This little meat bag, it's all gone. And so if this is God, he's going to have my life anyway. So I couldn't come up with a single logical reason why I would say no to God. And so I'm like, I got checkmated. And so I said yes. And in an instant, like I always say, life is an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart. And in an instant, I dropped into the heart, into the kingdom within. And I didn't know what love was until that moment. I didn't know what joy was. I didn't know what peace was. But it all happened in that instant. And I'm in the kingdom. And now I was free. I was no longer torn between past and the future. I was here. And then I get all these visions of everything in the future, but it's not like something that I'm worried about or any. It just is. It's an isness, and it's all these visions. And I saw everything that would be happening, like all the COVID and all this crazy stuff that was happening, and it showed me the world splitting. And he's like, there's two trains, and on one of the trains, I mean, it's a vision. He's not saying it, but just a vision. Where on one train, the people are waking up. They're getting closer to themselves, their source, their surroundings, to God. Everything's getting more organic and natural, going closer to nature, and they're following love. On the other train, the people are getting more disconnected from each other, disconnected from God, more artificial, and following fear. And right at that moment, the trains were really close together, and people could jump back and forth. But the trains were splitting, and at some point, you know, you're going to have to pick your train. No more 50 Shades of Gray. It's black or white. You in heaven on earth or hell on earth? And right now is the moment to really decide before those trains split. And at some point, you won't even see the other train anymore. And that was the beginning of what the Tale of Two Kingdoms. That was the vision that I saw, you know, over 10 years ago. And now it's happening, where it's the Tale of Two Kingdoms, like the own nothing and be happy. That's happening. There's the beast system, where they're going to take everything in the artificial way. With the beast system, either you can't buy or sell unless you got your, biometric the digital ID, the biometric identity tied to it, and then, all that stuff was just a construct, control mechanisms built on fear. Or you're going to own nothing and be happy, because you realize that we're in the kingdom of God, and in the kingdom there's a king, and the king is the one that owns everything, and then he just makes us as sacred stewards of his stuff. And so, wow. And we never did own anything in the first place. And you reap what you sow. Trying to own something, it's actually owning you. And that, I saw that revelation.
So let me pause you there and ask a question. So are we in the kingdom now? Is the kingdom here now?
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I talk about, these 5 levels of consciousness, and I was sharing with you my journey. I didn't really hit all the points.
And by the way, I don't mean to derail you. Especially depending, I just certainly don't want to be on the wrong train.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail you, but I do want to know your perspective on, are we in the kingdom now? If you want to talk about that now or in a minute, don't want to derail you.
Yeah, I'm answering that question. Yeah. So I speak on these 5 levels of consciousness, but I say they're 5 states of conscious orientation, 5 ways to perceive reality, and depending on where you're standing, it's going to look differently. And then, but I talk about, I'm like, don't use these levels as like to judge yourself or to judge anyone else, because the truth is we're all in level 5 all the time. But
right. That's the whole point of the Gospel of Matthew, right? Do not judge. Whatever standard of judgment you set up is going to be how God's going to judge you. And all these parables throughout the book of Matthew come to this conclusion of when the Son of Man comes in his glory, he will separate the nations and all the peoples of the nations, like a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. There's your 2 trains. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I have this other distinction about so I say the life is an 18-inch journey from the head to the heart, but it's from the mind through the emotions to the heart, from slavery to freedom, from Egypt to the promised land, but you cross the river of reality. And so another way I distinguish that is so that's like eternity and time, but then so if you look at the cross, there's the vertical and then there's a horizontal. And so in the horizontal, in the physical dimension reality, like this is heaven coming to earth, and this is time, eternity coming into time. And so in that that horizontal reality, I say there's your truth, reality, and the truth. And like the truth, like there's only God. The truth is, God created everything, and he said it's not just good, it's very good, and he is the creator. And so, but then what got introduced, the sin, is just lies. It's lies, and it's an illusion. It's just like the metaverse. It's not a real world. It's a false reality, but we're so powerful. If we think we're not, and what you believe to be true is true for you, even if it's nonsense. You can make something not real more real than real. And again, the metaverse is a perfect example and expression of that. And so it's not real, but it can be real for us. So it's not real that we could possibly be separate from God. It's not real that you could be in any kingdom other than God's. It's not true, but we have the full experience as we do, and then we create our separation inside of our own. You're muted.
Yep, Job came to realize that when he said, where shall I flee from your presence? Or maybe it was David, I forget which one, or maybe both. Where shall I, if I go to the bottom of the ocean, you're there. If I go up into space, you're there.
Yeah. So the only question is, are you aware of God?
Right.
God's here. And so when people are like, Jesus, hey, where's the kingdom? God, where's the kingdom coming in? He's like, it's not low there or low here or low there. The kingdom of God is within you and it's among you. It's like, it's already here. The question is, can you see it? Do you have eyes to see it?
But also he did say, my kingdom is not of this world, and if it were, my servants would fight. So is that because it's not a material thing, or is that because it wasn't yet time?
Yeah. So it's these two, it's what's true and what isn't. It's what is and what isn't. When Adam and Eve, they bit the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, but there was no evil. God said everything is good. It's very good. So they gave up everything for nothing. And so we were born into that illusion. It's the metaverse. We were all born into the matrix. And so, but when I say there's your truth, reality, and the truth, we have to go through the river of reality, because our decisions actually do matter, because we have free will and they're actually mattering. But we have to face what we've created with we've miscreated, even though it doesn't impact or affect us in like eternity. Like God's already sitting with us, our souls in eternity. Like it's already written. The whole thing's already written. And so it's not being affected in the truth realm, but we're basically playing it out through this, but by facing.
So do you not believe in free will?
I do believe in free will.
So what is the nature of that then? And I ask because I'm in basic agreement with you, but to your point earlier, when you said what you do matters, it does matter, right? It matters here and now. And we were talking earlier about, this is the time for growth and change and transformation. We've been given this space. We've been given this opportunity. We've been planted on this womb, this Garden of Eden, this blue-green jewel floating through space is the Garden of Eden, and we're in it.
Yeah. So what I mean is, you don't get to change the truth. You don't get to change God's mind. What you get to decide is, are you going to get to experience the kingdom or not? It's there. It's here. Right. The only question, your free will, is, do you get to receive it or not? Do you get to participate in it? Do you get to experience?
So then what's the point of the two trains?
Because most people are on the other train because we're born into sin, the perceived separation from God. And so be not conformed to the patterns of this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you, like Adam and Eve, they didn't get to decide to be born into perfection.
No, that part I get, I guess. What's the point of the trains being close so that you could jump from one to the other and then separating out?
Because it's the manifestation. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So the mind is split, but the heart is one. Seek first the kingdom. The kingdom of God is within you. Once you're in that oneness on the inside, then all these things will be added to you. So it's only in our perception. Like we're making a reality of like it's real, but
Sure.
like what happened?
Yes, let me ask the question
Okay.
differently, because you're not answering my question, and that's fine. I know you're
Okay.
trying to answer the question. You talk about matter, right? Which is great, and I get that, what you're saying, and it's awesome, and I love the analogy. But maybe it's the component of time, right? Time is a part of the created experience. Time is a part of our experience, and you know, decisions and consequences, cause and effect. There are many parables that speak to the impact of the choices that we make, and there's a time element, and then there's the element of time running out, and you're
Yeah.
out of time,
Yeah.
whether that's at death, and even the name of your book, If I Die Before I Wake, right? So anyway, it's that element of time and the nature of what's unfolding around us in time is, I guess, what I'm getting at, in terms of, is the kingdom here now, or what is different as the train moves further apart? The two trains
Well,
move further
yeah.
apart.
I mean, what's in the timeline of time? Again, there's like we're talking two dimensions at the same time. Eternal perspective from God, and then we're talking about the human perspective that's bowed down, looking up.
Yep.
And so from that time-based human perspective on this side of the river of reality, the splitting is happening because most time people don't do what they should do; they do what they must do, and it's like a fork in the road. As long as there's 50 shades of gray, then the people just play in the gray. But once Jesus came the first time to give us a way out. Again, Adam and Eve, they didn't decide to get born, to get created in the perfect.
Right. Jesus is the second Adam, and it changed everything. When he said it is finished, it was done, and the veil in the temple was ripped asunder, and everything changed.
Yeah. And so then
that's why, in my opinion, Paul later says, hey, you're not weaned yet. And this is the book of Hebrews, right? He's talking to the Hebrew community in particular. You're not weaned. You're still drinking milk. You should be teachers. Strong meat belongs to those who by reason of use have exercised their senses to discern good and evil. So there's a maturing. And when Jesus came as the second Adam, there was a whole new ball game. And now we are imbibing of that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but with also the tree of life, and with the full assistance of the Holy Spirit to really understand the truth and the reality, and really become like God in a way that Adam and Eve desired but would never achieve.
Yeah, let's go. And so what I was saying about Adam and Eve, they didn't get to decide to be put in the garden, created in the garden. They decided to leave. They used their free will to leave. Right. And then we were born in their decision, which separate. But then Jesus comes and gives us the doorway home. Now we get to exercise our free will to come home. And I say Jesus didn't come to get us into heaven. He came to get heaven into us, and then to get heaven in this world through us. And so once we receive that, we're born again. We've got now a spirit, and then we walk by faith, not by sight. So we're living from the inside out. And now the world, the reality, the physical dimension starts to bow to us again. It's been bowing the entire time. That's the reason the animals are eating each other and killing each other and dying, is because we chose death. And so that's why it says when the new heaven and the new earth comes, the lion and the lamb, they're just hanging out with each other, because it's been bowing to us the whole time. Back to the phrase, you're so powerful, if you think you're not, you're not. And so we've got this decision that if we decide to receive the kingdom in us, and we follow that in, and then it appears without, though it is within, and suddenly the split occurs, and we're on the other side of the train. We're not going to see sin anymore. Like the ones on this train, at some point you won't see the sin, you won't see any of the dark, you won't see all that stuff anymore, because it's heaven on earth and hell on earth, and that's it. There's no more. Yeah, a little bit. Maybe I'll just a little bit here. No, that doesn't exist anymore, and that's where we're face to face.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go to another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have to crash land this plane, or bring this train into the station to talk a little bit about what you're actually doing. The third segment is typically reserved for where are you growing next, but this has been so deep and so rich and so broad, we're only getting to what are you doing now. So we'll probably have to have you back on at some point in the future. But anyway, let's get into what are you doing now and how are you putting into this practice when we return from this commercial break with Jonathan England on Created in the Image of God.
The bond between humans and animals has existed for centuries. They walk beside us, work with us, trust us. Yet, in a world shaped by human hands, their well-being is often an afterthought. Robert Eccles invites us to see animals not as property, but as lives that matter. Through faith, philosophy, and action for our friends, the animals offers a path to a kinder world. Change begins in the choices we make, how we care, how we advocate, how we protect them. Every small act of kindness creates a ripple. The way we treat animals shapes the world we share. For Our Friends the Animals by Robert Eccles. Available now.
Welcome back. We're running a little bit behind on this train, running a little bit overtime, but it's all good. We'll have to keep this segment a little bit short. So, Jonathan, jump right into the practical matter of what it is that you are building outside of Babylon's systems, and your book, If I Die Before I Wake, and what is it called? The community that you've built?
The Earthwaking Village.
Earthwaking Village in Costa Rica. Right?
Yeah.
So, what time are you there now in Costa Rica?
Yeah.
What time zone are you in?
It's central, but I call it centered time because it doesn't go back and forth like it does in the US.
Yeah.
There's
no daylight savings time. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about all that, Jonathan, how that came to be and what it is and where it's from.
Just another, all these crazy stories. But I mean, when I got the visions, God showed me everything was going to happen. But part of it was he said, I'm going to be building these metaphorical arcs, so to speak, where we've got our own sovereign food, water, shelter, energy, community, and currency. Because when this B system gets deployed, when that thing goes down, you either bow or die. By
the way, this is fascinating to me, and I've been involved in it in a different way. But when I was in my riding up the corporate career, and I styled myself in the mold of Joseph and Daniel, right, who were reporting to the pharaohs and the leaders of this world. But I was trying to figure it out, and like they were, right. But I was close. I was working for Countrywide doing strategic planning during the economic meltdown, and Angelo Mazzillo was the CEO. He was featured on the cover of Time magazine in January 2009 as the #1 cause of the economic meltdown. I used to ride up and down in the elevator with him. I did strategic planning. I knew that they had a trading floor under the headquarters of Calabasas where they were creating, you'll understand this from a real estate perspective, where they were creating the toxic sausage that was sold to the proverbial pension fund in Norway, right? But there's an aspect of what Countrywide was doing that I don't have time to get into that led me to believe, what, Time magazine may have been throwing darts at a dartboard, but they got it right. You can watch movies like The Big Short and understand what Countrywide was doing, but there's a whole piece of it that people didn't even know. My point in saying that is I had a vantage point to understand just how fragile this global thing is that you're talking about, and how close we were to that train of the planet running off the tracks, or as I like to say, the engine of the car seizing up at 100 miles an hour down the freeway. The global economic system feeding the supply and demand was on the verge of shutting down. The banking system was collapsing. People were about to make the decision of, do we cancel the manufacturing because there are ships sitting in the harbor waiting to go to the stores, and we don't know if they will sail, and we don't know if we can continue to produce these goods, speculating that somebody's going to buy them. And the global economic system would have shut down, and everyone would have become unemployed, and all the companies would have failed and gone bankrupt, and there would have been no bailouts possible. Everything would have stopped and shut down. All the cities would be trending towards starvation and mayhem, cannibalism. Nothing would work. All your banking system, forget your Netflix and your iPhone, whatever number you have, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, full on. I mean, it's at some point it's happening. The question is not if, it's just when. And so God just planted these visions. He's been calling me forward. I've been walking by faith, not by sight. And he sent me to Austin, Texas. I started building community there, but it was just like I had a house, and I was just doing I had people come into my living room, and I had like 30, 40 people a week that would just come in for Thursday and Sunday. We'd just have like messages and things going on. And then I would do these live events called Awaken Life Live that were like 3 days. And I would do those at like a hotel event space, and was growing community like that. I was basically like, I saw it as like incubating these leaders. But then I tried to buy a property in Bastrop, Texas, to build an actual village. So it's actually, we're doing this now, building one of these arcs, so to speak. And then everything was going great. And then all of a sudden I heard loud and clear, me and my wife, Mel, both heard loud and clear. God said, you got 1 hour, pack your bags, fly to Costa Rica right now. We're like, what? We had one of our biggest event we had ever done was about to come up. And we had, our family, our house, everything, our whole life is right there. And God's like, you need to pack up your stuff right now and fly. And we said, okay, we obey. And we packed our bags, not knowing what we're packing for, how long we'd be gone, go to the airport, fly to Costa Rica. The moment we landed, like that day, as soon as we land, actually before we landed, the borders had been closed and all the airports had been shut down from COVID. And so as soon as we land, they're like, hey, you need to turn around and catch a reparation flight, go back. Otherwise you're going to get stuck here. I'm like, I can't turn around and go back. God literally just sent us here. And they said, well, if you don't go back now, you're going to get stuck. I'm like, well, how long? And they said, we don't know. Could indefinitely. We don't know if it's ever going to open back up. And so me and Mel were like, dude, what are we going to do? And, it's everything's our life is everything's there. But God just told us to come here. And then we're like, you know what? If we get stuck in Costa Rica forever, would that really be that bad? Like, you know what? I think we're going to take our chances. So that's how it started. The reason we're in Costa Rica is because God clearly sent us here. And then you
know what? I'm an author and I love a cliffhanger. And we're out of time. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to hang us on the cliff of you being in Costa Rica. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So I assume you're game with coming back on for a second show then.
Let's go. That was
all right. Because we're out of time and we could go on, but this seems like the cliffhanging moment. Winter is coming, right? As they say but no, COVID is here, right?
Yeah.
And we'll pick it up from COVID when we have you back on the air. Are you okay with that?
Let's go.
This is being pre-recorded, but doesn't it have a live feel right now?
Yeah.
Raw and real. All right, folks, there you have it, Jonathan England. And that's the decision we're making, executive decision. We're going to go with it, led by the Spirit, hopefully. And there's so much more to unpack here as to what you're actually doing and what it means and how to live, because the proof is in the pudding. John 13:35, by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, that you have love one for another. The big question is, what does that love look like, right? Is this guy Jim Jones? I mean, I heard a story about you having blue and red Kool-Aid or something. We'll cover that next time as well, when we have Jonathan England back on the Created in the Image of God show. Jonathan, any last words without spilling any beans here?
No, just thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And if anybody wants to, the taleoftwokingdoms.com, you can go there and check out what's going on. And
everybody remember the book, If I Die Before I Wake, right? By Jonathan England. That's another one they can find.
Yeah. If you go to findyourpurposebook.com, you can download it for free there.
Awesome. So any other last words?
There's a thing that I always say as I'm signing off, because it really means a lot to me. It's coming from the depth of my journey, which is everyone to remember that who you are makes a difference. The world is a much better place because you exist. Thank you for being you. Thank God for you, and thank God for us. Go team, body of Christ.
Well, and as I always say here to close off, you are created in the image of God, and God loves his creation. So one more thing, sneak peek for next week. Sadly, it won't be Jonathan England. I can't promise you how and when and where. You will find out where he will be next appearing. Maybe we'll have to do some kind of special show to follow up. Jonathan, you and I will work that out. But right now we're out of time. Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for the sneak peek. We'll see you all next week. Hi, everyone. Wade Franson here with a sneak peek of next week's episode, airing February 8th. Episode 219. Can't believe it. And there's that number 19. You mentioned 19 people that contributed to your first book. Tell us about your work and how it came about and what people can expect to learn on the show when they tune in next week.
Yeah, it's actually 19 on the second book, which confirmed the first book.
So 219. It's episode 219, second book 19. We're not into numerology.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. I love it. But yes, God has worked at God's speed in my life after I gave up alcohol. I'm just so blessed to do devotional number 1 for substances, devotional number 2 for behaviors, a book on how to prepare people to get ready to quit, because a lot of people want to quit, but they don't know how. And then a course that solidifies all of God's, core concepts and what he wants us to know to stay the course and continue to choose him. So yeah, super excited for sharing that with everyone.
Well, your story is an amazing one, and I can prophesy that people will really get everything they need to know in that hour as we unpack that, because we already have this show in the can, so to speak. So everyone, don't miss episode 219 with Roseanne Forte, airing on February 8th on Created in the Image of God. We'll see you there.